A billion-dollar warship against $2 million worth of armed AI-powered machines. It's easy to see where the money's at, but some wars aren't all about fancy machines alone. Ukraine has proved multiple times in the past just how formidable they are in tactical warfare, but this time around, they went over the edge. On October 12, 2025, Ukraine launched another drone strike into the port of Novorossiysk, where North Korean forces were situated, a supposed impenetrable fortress, wrapped in layers of air and sea defense, worth about $1 billion. But this didn't stop Ukraine. On the port, missile launchers were at the ready. Cutting-edge radar systems scanned every angle of the sea, and anti-aircraft cannons were armed and loaded towards the sky. All of these were toys compared to North Korea's crown jewel, a massive warship called the stealth frigate, carrying ballistic missiles capable of hitting targets dead-on from 800 meters away, with 8 vertical launch tubes. This beast cost close to $500 million. The North Korean Navy knew this was their triumph card, so they built defenses around it. On the other side were Ukrainian forces. They didn't bring sophisticated weapons, no destroyers, no fighter jets, and no submarines. They brought something smaller, something cheaper, something totally different and unexpected. UAVs. Yes, you heard that right. Cheap AQ-400 Scythe drones, worth just about a family car, challenged a $1 billion stronghold and warship. But that wasn't all Ukraine brought to the show. Coming in from the south were 5 AI-operated boats slicing through the waves like it was nothing. These boats had a well-planned mission. The first 2 were heavily armed. The one that followed was a decoy, designed to appear as a friendly on the enemy radar. The remaining 2 were held back. Talk about deceitfulness. Just as North Korea had their ace card, Ukraine had a little disaster of their own. It is airborne, smaller, and way faster, a Bayer TB-2 bomber. The drone operated through an encrypted Starlink. It hovers about 30,000 feet in the air, eyes locked on the grand prize, the stealth frigate Warship. This aircraft drone might not have as much firepower as most bombers or fighter jets, but it was built never to miss. That means it always hits its target. The attack started early in the morning. Ukraine had been targeting this area for quite some time now, carefully planning and mapping the port. Their intelligence gathered information that the Russian-owned port carried critical information, weapons, and ammunition for North Korea. North Korea hid their most sophisticated weapons, logistics, and plans in Russian territory, thinking that would serve as some scarecrow to keep their enemies away. This was a 2 versus 1 situation, and the odds were against Ukraine. The Ukrainian drone forces swept in from the west, a total of 6 AQ-400 drones moving at a free highway speed with just about 50 feet above the water, low enough to miss their target radar. The unmanned boats headed toward the harbor. The strike mission was in action. Each boat carried with it metallic fibers that confused the enemy radar when released. These fibers were released on activation from the Ukrainian base, and within seconds, the North Korean screens fluttered in distortion. Above them, Ukraine's TB-2 remained on standby, out of enemy sight, mapping the terrain and ready to strike at a moment's notice. On the stealth warship, the North Korean command center erupted into confusion as their sophisticated radar kept classifying the boats and drones as birds. They knew something was up, so they activated the L6 target tracker in the harbor. It read the decoy boat as a friendly, otherwise in a split second, the boat would have been no more. By this time, the North Korean Navy knew they were under attack. The AQ-400s were zooming in, and the Russian defenders on the port noticed and fired 13 missiles, which took out only 1 drone in the air. The shrapnel released by the Ukrainian boats made locking imprecise for the defenders' systems. Before firing blindly at the enemy again, the Russian Kasuka-4 jamming trucks at the port were activated to take out every drone in the area. From the hidden bunker where the Ukrainian drone operators were positioned, their monitors flashed red. Every signal on every drone they launched was lost, but Ukraine had seen this before, so they came prepared. The TB-2 in the sky wasn't just for show, and since it wasn't near the Kasuka jamming area, it was untouched. As for the cheap Scythe drones, they had been stored with loaded terrain and can operate only on gyroscopes. No GPS, no links. 1 drone locked target on the radar truck and in an instant, blew it to smithereens. The Ukrainian team screens fluttered back to life and continued operation. All signals were back. This is where the battle started to get interesting. The TB-2 drone watching from above was actively sending back live feeds to the Ukraine bunker. Its eyes were still on the big prize, which was still defended by panzers and cannon launchers on the harbor. It was time they took them out one by one. The Ukrainian operators sent in one AQ-400 scythe moving at 90 miles per hour, nearly 33 feet above the port. It dived head-on with its 154-pound charge into a nearby Panzer S-1 truck, and boom! One more target was out of the way. At this moment, the enemy side launched a counterattack. 3 Hunter drones were deployed from a nearby base miles away from Novorossiysk. Each was armed with laser-guided warheads and moved at speeds as high as 120 miles per hour. The 5 Ukrainian boats heading towards the warship were their first target, and without hesitation, the Russian operators of the Hunter drones dropped a bomb directly at one of the 2 boats carrying weapons. It took a direct hit and exploded, taking out 3 other boats nearby. The Ukrainian operator controlling the boats in the bunker was left with the last Mura-55 boat. He didn't falter, and neither did the rest of the operators. They were more than ready for casualties. He pulled back the last boat and brought it to cruise slowly, hiding behind the waves to mask its heat signature from the Hunter drones. Unknown to the North Korean and Russian forces on the harbor, the boats had done what was expected. A perfect diversion for the remaining airborne scythe drones and the real threat, the TB-2. The TB-2 maintained 28,000 feet in the air, now scanning the area for the enemy Hunter drones. It marked one and struck before it could even react. The TB-2 wears a camouflage that makes it appear as a seagull on radar, making it hard for the enemy to lock on. The other 2 Hunters scurried to reform amidst the explosion that threw wreckage in all directions, disrupting their feeds. At this point, North Korea's crown weapon spun into action. The ship's AK-630 fired thousands of 30mm shells, like thunder through the sky. The river of bullets tore through multiple scythe drones. At the same time, the last Ukrainian boat did one last diversion by releasing its own load of aluminum fibers to distort the enemy radar. All the while, the TB-2 was closing in and was now a few miles from the billion-dollar warship. The AK-360 on deck was still firing in a frenzy. Even though blind, it managed to hit the last AQ-400 scythe in the sky, which took damage for the TB-2 to go through. By now, the machine gun was empty and recalibrating to reload. Before the remaining 2 Hunters could reach it through the clouds of smoke, the Ukrainian TB-2 drone locked the laser target on the ship, locking on 2 critical points, the fuel depot and the vertical missile tubes. The Ukrainian operator smirked and moved the control stick for the strike. Its hundreds of pounds of charge destroyed the fuel tank, causing an intense shockwave and a fireball that went tens of feet in the air. This affected everything within 290 yards, with a blast as high as 3.4 magnitude. That wasn't all. The target was the fuel compartment and the missiles. Just as predicted, fuel gushed into the tubes, causing a big fire that melted almost every launch tube. North Korea's untouchable fortress and sophisticated warship were covered in flames and smoke. What they thought was impenetrable was now damaged by cheap Ukrainian drones and a single TB-2 aircraft in just 15 minutes. And just like that, a billion-dollar stronghold, weapons and software were challenged and thwarted by $2 million worth of UAV hardware. No submarines, no warships, just a well-coordinated attack using modified machines and tactics. The fact remains that the stealth frigate Warship didn't sink, but it sure took one hell of a hit, and it will take months of repairs before it's ready for another deployment. Do you think this counts as a win for Ukraine? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to smash that subscribe button for more war stories.